Hello class, my name is Brian Layton and this is my final reflection paper for my Criminology class at Averett University. I came into this class with 21 years of police experience and a reasonably closed mind toward what I could learn about crime in this class that I hadn't already learned on the streets. Boy, was my reality altered as I learned about drugs, terrorism, prostitution, biological roots of criminal behavior, psychological and psychiatric foundations of criminal behavior, social development and conflict, organized crime, and technological crime. During this first week of class, while writing my bio, I wrote some pretty vague statements about my experience with and opinions of crime, as well as typical crime stereotypes and misconceptions. After completing this class, I have a more definitive understanding of crime, and I'm prepared to make more educated statements and educated opinions about criminal activity. Two of my perceptions of criminality that have changed as a direct result of my taking this class are: one, human trafficking isn't really a serious problem throughout the United States, and two, people learn criminal behavior from their peers and their environment, so criminal behavior can't be attributed to predetermined biological roots. During these next slides, I explain how my perceptions have changed. As I was reading the course text during week 5, I was blown away to learn that between 800,000 and 900,000 victims are trafficked globally each year, and over 17,000 of those victims are trafficked into the United States. I was appalled by the sheer number of victims of this crime, but I was also shocked to see that 46% of the people trafficked into the United States are trafficked here for prostitution. 27% of those victims are trafficked here for domestic servitude. I knew that this was a huge problem in other parts of the world, especially poorer nations, but I truly had no idea that this was such a huge problem in our country. Another misconception I had was that human trafficking was limited to third world countries where governments are typically poor and lack resources to deal with crimes like this. I was taken back to learn that most trafficking operations are taking place in advanced nations like the United States, Italy, Japan, Canada, and Australia. I imagine I'm not alone in this misconception, and I believe that my misconceptions came from several factors, including viewing of fictional movies, my own ignorance, and a lack of reporting in the mainstream media. During week 2, we learned about possible biological roots of criminal behavior. These include diet, chemical and environmental precursors, hormones, genetics, and sociobiology. Before this class, I thought this was just a bunch of bull, quite honestly. I always felt that humans chose whether or not to commit crime, and it was a personal choice that they had to make. But after reading the text and seeing the data, I realized that there are very real connections to a person's biological roots and their propensity for criminal behavior. The example I'll provide is under behavioral genetics, which is the study of genetic and environmental contributions to individual variations in human behavior. In 1968, a study of twins concluded that 52% of identical twins and 22% of fraternal siblings displayed the same amount of criminality within the twin pair. These criminality statistics remained consistent even when the pair was separated at birth and raised in substantially different environments. This alone has to prove that genetics plays a huge role in criminality. And this study completely supports the idea that genetics absolutely plays a role in one's propensity for criminal behavior. Now, I do believe that there are many other factors that contribute to criminality, but now I also believe in the biological roots theory, where before I thought it was a bunch of baloney. commits crime in the United States? My perception was that folks from all backgrounds commit crime, but who is committing most of the crime in the United States? Before this class, I felt that juveniles and young adults were committing most of the crime in the United States, and from my years in police work, that supported that theory, because by far, for most of the crimes that occur in the city, we really see that it's juvenile crime and or young adult crime. A lot of it involves alcohol and or drugs. My perception was supported when I read Chapter 9, The Criminal Careers of Property Offenders. According to Alfred Blumstein and his colleagues, a criminal in property offending consists of three different phases. The first phase is the break-in period, where that's during the juvenile years and they're just learning how to commit crime. The second phase is the stable period, which usually begins around age 30. This is where they've usually mastered their craft. And the third phase is the burnout phase, which begins around age 40, and that's when most people move away from criminal behavior. I most associate crime or criminality with the interactional theory. This theory integrates social control and social learning explanations of delinquency and criminality. According to interactional theory, the fundamental cause of delinquency and criminality is a weakening of a person's bond to conventional society. In other words, you become your environment, or you behave as your peers. Ever heard the adage, you are what you eat? Well, the interactional theory says you are who you hang out with. What this means is, if you hang out with criminals and see that their criminal behavior is accepted and rewarded, then you too will behave as they do, because you also want to be accepted and rewarded by the group for your behavior. The knowledge I've gained in this class will help me greatly in my criminal justice career. Broadening my mind and my perspectives to criminality has made me a better police officer. I now have a better understanding of the different elements that come together to breed criminal behavior. I now understand that criminal behavior is multifaceted. Many elements have to come together before criminal behavior can occur. I now have a better understanding of the magnitude of certain crimes in the United States. Examples are human trafficking, drugs, murder and homicide, burglary, and larceny offenses. I now have an understanding of the different theoretical perspectives governing crime. This knowledge will also allow me to provide fresh perspective to my young police officers. I think this has been a great class. I've learned a lot. I'm going to take what I've learned in this class and absolutely apply it to my police career. One of these days, I plan on being a police chief somewhere here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and the education that I'm receiving here from you great folks is absolutely going to help me attain that goal, and I thank you for a great class.